You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Thursday, November 8th, 2018. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we have been talking about saints. We've talked about what a saint actually is, the process by which a person is recognized by the Catholic Church as a saint, and yesterday we cleared up some confusing things about saints, like if it's okay to have a picture or a statue of a saint, and if we actually pray to saints or pray with saints. Today we are going to tackle the issue of patron saints. Now, as you've likely noticed, if only through listening to this podcast, we as Catholics have lots and lots of saints. In fact, there are many feast days that I can't even mention here because there's sometimes multiple saints who have their feast day each day. There are lots and lots of saints. You don't need to know them all. But the beautiful thing is that our church has designated certain saints as patrons of certain things, meaning that saint has proven to have taken a special interest in this thing. When we are facing a problem in a certain area, it gives us a saint to appeal to for prayers in heaven. Saints can be patrons of all sorts of things. There are patron saints for nearly every occupation that you can have when you grow up. There are patron saints for nearly every illness that people battle through their lifetimes. There are also patron saints for nearly every country in the world, and each church that is built usually has a patron saint. Now again, having a patron saint just means that you look to this saint in particular for help with your job, with an illness, or to protect the country that you live in. Now, sometimes the patron saint assigned to a certain thing can be a little bit funny, but it's still interesting. For example, St. Clare of Assisi is this patron saint of television. St. Clare lived a long time before television was invented. In fact, hundreds upon hundreds of years before. And she was a cloistered nun. So even if she lived today when television exists, she wouldn't have watched television because there wouldn't be any televisions in the monastery. So why in the world is she the patron saint of television? Well, here's the story. Way back one Christmas when St. Clare was still alive, she was so very ill that she could not get out of bed and as a result could not attend Christmas Mass, which was being said about 3 miles away from where she lay in bed. However, through the grace of God, she was able to lay in her bed and view Mass as if it was projected on a screen in front of her. Sort of sounds like modern television, doesn't it? It's funny, but it's still great to have a patron to pray for, a patron that understands. Now, my challenge for you, Sprouts, is to think about, search out, and decide who your patron saint is. You have many to choose from. Now, some places to look. You can find a patron saint based on your name. In fact, many parents name their children and by doing so, give them a patron saint. This is exactly what my husband and I did when we named our children. We named them Augustine for St. Augustine, and Bernadette for St. Bernadette, Dominic for St. Dominic, and Josephine for St. Josephine Bakhita, which we will hear about in February. So maybe that is how you will learn about your patron saint. Maybe it will simply be a saint that you read about and you think is very interesting. It can be anyone, just someone you have a special attachment to. But put some time into it, think about it, talk to your parents, talk to your friends, and start to decide who your special patron saint will be. That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God intended you to be. And finally, a quick heads up to the parents. As we work our way through November, we of course are looking forward to December and Advent. Here on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we will be spending all of Advent exploring the Jesse tree, meaning we will be talking about many of Jesus' ancestors as a way to prepare our hearts to welcome him at Christmas. If you would like to explore the Jesse tree even further at home with your family, I encourage you to look into a beautiful new resource. It's a devotional book for Catholic families that explores the Jesse tree. It takes the stress off of you, gives lots of biblical context, and also is designed to truly teach children about the amazing plan that God has had in place for our salvation from the very, very beginning. To explore this book and the ornaments that go with it, head to DoSmallThingsWithLove /Jesse-Tree.